Greetings, everyone. Del Hungerford here from Healing Frequencies Music. And as I said in the last video, I am going to start adding little tidbits of information based on questions that people ask me. And as you ask questions, you can either ask them in the chat below this video, or you can respond to any of the articles that go out via the newsletter, because I have a mini course in frequencies and people respond and ask questions all the time. And so this video and pretty much the next 3 or 4 are all going into answering those questions. So without further ado, I need to get the computer so you can actually see me. Today's topic is about the natural laws of music. And I'm going to share my screen and show you some things, because it's much easier to let you see it. So that way you see and hear at the same time. All right, we shall share my screen and begin this wonderfully bodacious slideshow from the beginning. It's a very good place to start. It is going to go right from the beginning. There we go. Okay, so this is the laws of music. And it's explaining how music works, but at the same time, looking at some of the theories that people have come up with that may or may not be so accurate, because you have to compare it to how does it fit in with musical laws. So we're going to take a mini rabbit trail. So music is based on the laws of harmonics, which is the musical harmonic series. In this first picture, you can see it looks like a conch shell, and that is the wavelengths of the different harmonics and how they all fit nicely into one cute little package there. Then on the right, you see a guitar, harmonics, the piano, the violin, the flute, the saxophone, the organ. All the wavelengths are going to look different because of the different harmonic sounds that are in that particular instrument. And here is an example of the musical harmonic series starting on the note C. Now, what's interesting, people get really confused about this, where, the asterisk says these pitches will sound out of tune. Well, that's according to equal temperament, our modern tuning. But in Pythagorean tuning or just intonation, they could be closer to being accurate because they're tuned different. Here is the harmonic series that's based on the frequencies of creation, which I found is closely matches the A432 concert pitch. Everything within the earth itself that, you're able to find a frequency for is somewhere 430, 419, 417 to 432, and even up to 435. And, even that is debatable, because you have to have several pitches in order to know specifically which concert pitch it's going to fit in, because you can change the temperament and it could be slightly different. And I'm not going to go into that here. But how do you find the harmonics? Here I started with 90 hertz, and you add 90 plus 90, you get 180 hertz. Then you add 180 plus 90 and you get 270 hertz. Then 270 hertz plus 90 gets 360. 360 plus 90 equals 450, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That is how you build the musical harmonic series. And I use this one because it's what I'm finding is the frequencies in creation tend to line up with this chart. Now, this is the harmonic series, which will fit into different concert pitches based on what those concert pitches are. So this is what we know about music. Music follows the pattern of harmonics. There's no way to measure pitch. There was no way to measure pitch until the mid-1800s. So all tuning up until then was done by ear and the preference of a performer or composer. It does not appear that notes within it, it does appear that notes within the A432 concert pitch closely match the tuning of nature using a variety of temperaments. And I'll show some of that. The frequencies of creation, as I said earlier, are somewhere in there. Just like colors, musical notes have many varieties of each note organized into concert pitches. How many flavors of blue are there? How many different varieties of blue? Is anyone any worse than another? Well, it's the same thing with the note F. Is there any worse frequency on F than any other? And there's just about as many versions of F as there are versions of blue, of the blue color. And we want to have absolutes, but that doesn't work that way in music. And this is directly answering a question that someone asked me in an email. There is zero, notice, zero credible evidence that Hitler, the Rockefellers, or any others did anything to recently change music. They keep pointing to the year 1953, or was it 59? Man, we'd already decided our concert pitch by then. Anyway, there's plenty of historical evidence that debunks every one of these myths. You mean those of us who did 3 degrees in music, how much music theory we had to take and music history? Yeah, there's plenty of stuff out there to show otherwise. So here's 2-minute tuning history on this. Ancients tuned using the laws. I have to move myself up a little bit more. Maybe I'll move myself down. Sorry, not trying to make you dizzy. Ancients tuned using the laws of harmonics. Fifths, fourths, octaves, octaves were always pure, and they used other intervals depending on what they felt worked. Very little about tuning has varied in the last 20,000 years. That's as old as some of the bone flutes that they have found. And there are YouTube videos of people playing replicas of those flutes. And the music pretty much sounds like it does today. Then there's these ancient bells of China that were found around, they were built around the time of Pythagoras. And then the lyre of Ur, which was around, about 500 or 600 years before the time of David in the Bible. I mean, that lyre is tuned to about 439 concert pitch. And the bone flutes, I don't know. I didn't check the concert pitch in those, but the bells of China, somewhere, I mean, they can't really tell because the temperament is off a little bit, because some intervals are wider than the others. So it's really hard to tell what that concert pitch is. Anyway, during the Renaissance and the Baroque era, which is the 16 and the 1700s, keyboard and lute players tuned to a town bell, tuning forks, or whatever else that they had that they could use as a reference. Because keyboard players, all they had to do was get something and adjust there. And lute players, that's an early version of guitar. Wind instruments at that time, it was pretty hard because it was fixed pitch as far as concert pitch. Every region had their own method of tuning. Pitch was not standardized until 1939. And by the early 20th century, many countries had already chosen something close to 440. I think America chose 440 in the early 1900s. And I think that was the late 1800s that Britain had 439 or 438. Countries in Europe were still, some of them were above. They were 415, 430. Some of them were as high as 450. And it started to become a problem if you were traveling. That's one of the reasons we have standardization. Now, when it comes to music performance, and of course, I have a clarinet here because I'm a clarinetist, and I even recognize that piece of music. It's the Ferguson 5 bagatelles for clarinet. Anyway, that was my geeky clarinet moment. Music is fluid in that pitches change based on where they fit within the music. Intervals, major thirds, perfect fifths, all of those will change depending on if you're playing a note and you're holding a note out and it's the third of the chord, you're going to play it different than when it's the fifth of the chord. So you're constantly changing pitch so that the chord sounds good with everyone else in the ensemble. Pitches also fluctuate due to temperature and humidity. Tonal quality is affected by the equipment used, like clarinet. Plastic clarinets are going to sound very different than ones made of ebony. And they have different varieties of them now. Some are made of rosewood, and they're going to have a much mellower tone. And the mouthpiece makes a huge difference as well. Fretted instruments, which are guitars, lutes, And keyboards, pianos, for example, they cannot adjust pitches while playing. They want to adjust, they have to stop and retune. All wind and non-fretted instruments, such as the violin, the viola, the cello, and the bass, they can adjust pitches during a performance. As a clarinetist, I will shade using fingers, or I will use a different fingering, or sometimes I will lip something down or voice it differently, and that will change the pitch. And it's all on the fly as you're going, which is why musicians say tuning is their worst nightmare, because it's going to depend on what group you're playing with. Now, going back to, because I get this question all the time, using music for healing. How can you choose healing music that works for you? Music is in the eye of the beholder. What works for one, others may not like. Again, people want a specific song or a specific frequency that will work, but I'm telling you that's not how it works. You have to find out what your body wants, what your being wants at that time, and it may change a month from now. The key is intention. Vocal music is loaded with intention because of the lyrics. Music is meant to affect the emotions. Your emotional state also affects your physical body. The concert pitch, tuning, temperament, and specific notes used in healing music affect as you choose them to. And healing music is generally instrumental because as soon as you put lyrics in there, then you are putting some intention into it. So if you find a piece of music that you really like, that's instrumental and that feels good to you at that time, then pair your intention with that music. Intention rules when it comes to choosing healing music. All right, here is the thing. If any theory creates a sense of fear when you first hear it, put it on a shelf until you gather information from reputable sources. Some of this stuff is just so laced with fear, and I'm like, really? Where did that come from? And I have to laugh at some of it. The key is find reputable sources. When we're talking about concert pitch, music, anything that's about music, you need to find musicians who actually read music because they've studied it out. Well, I didn't study it out as much because I spent too much time in a practice room rather than doing my music theory until later on in life. But once you have that training, then you can look at the deeper parts of music. It's kind of like quantum physics. You're not going to just randomly, most people anyway, understand quantum physics unless you study it. Further reading for you to find out information that I'm talking about here, go to healingfrequenciesmusic.com. Look for any article on the ancient solfegial frequencies or any articles on the musical harmonic series or musical temperament. Temperament is adjusting the distance between notes, and concert pitch is adjusting the whole gamut of notes. So you set your temperament, then you can adjust the concert pitch according to what temperament. Then, of course, the frequencies of creation articles have a lot of information in there as well. And the only other person that I have found in the last 10 years that is looking into the healing music stuff that is knowledgeable, who is a trained musician, his name is Raul, I don't know how to say it, Hollander. And he gets even geekier than I do and goes into much more music theory stuff. So some of it can be a little bit more difficult to understand than even mine. And my friends tell me, your stuff is too hard to read sometimes. So I'm working on making it the cliff notes of things, which hopefully this will give you some of that information. And the next thing is you want to follow me, Healing Frequencies Music. Subscribe to this YouTube channel, please. Share the videos with other people. It feeds the algorithm. And I have a Healing Frequencies Music page on Facebook. And I just started Instagram in January of 2025. So if you follow me, you're going to receive a daily meme that's very encouraging. And with that, just make sure you check the website where you can purchase the music, sign up for a sound bath, order a personal song, purchase a course, sign up for the song of the month, buy some books. There's a whole bunch of other stuff on the site. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing. Okay, so the whole point of this video is to help you understand that you get to choose what music feels good for you when it comes to healing. If you're listening to something and you like it and it feels good to you, then use it. Don't go looking for someone to tell you you need something in this specific frequency or this concert pitch. You know, I've been playing an A440 my whole life and I'm fine. There's nothing wrong with me. So I don't think it's harmful. And a lot of people out there saying it is, and I just have to roll my eyes. See? Anyway, on that note, we'll see you in the next video.